Hi there. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. I'm Paige Alexander.
And I'm Jamie Morgan Reno.
We are here talking about episode 12 about sleep and how it is crucial for our recovery.
Yes, yes. Paige, I know here at Real Food Recovery, we often talk about food and food planning and how we don't subscribe to any particular food plan as a podcast, right? We
Right.
believe everyone needs to find a food plan that works best for them, as long as it is whole food based and processed food free. So,
Agree.
in a podcast called Real Food Recovery, it's kind of maybe unexpected that our topic today is going to be sleep. Sleep is, we're talking about the last few episodes, we've been talking about our branches of the recovery tree.
Hmm.
Tree of anyone who's seen our logo knows that we have a tree of life as our logo, and our branches are all of those areas of recovery. Food is the main branch, the main trunk of the tree, and then all those other branches really hold up and support that whole tree of recovery. And when we think about a crucial branch, we could not talk about anything else before we talked about sleep, right?
Agree.
And why do we have to always do that, Paige?
Right. That's a great question because people fuss about sleep all the time. So
Mhm.
we had to bring it up. And the reason is because sleep is important because it affects our mental, physical, and emotional well being. The benefits of sleep can affect every moment of our day and every part of our life.
Yes.
Achieving good sleep is essential to both our activities and our health. Our brain uses that sleep time to sort through our experiences. So, in other words, we clean up and get rid of information connections that we don't need from the day that has just gone by. Without adequate sleep, we may not be making enough space for new learning and memories. It can also improve our mood with sleep and decrease stress. Getting enough sleep also ensures we are safe to drive on the roads. I don't think that's understated, and
No.
less likely to make costly mistakes at work. And that is not understated either.
Right.
Being awake for longer than 17 hours impairs your ability to think clearly as much as a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05. And after 24 hours awake, your ability to perform cognitive task is as poor as if you had a blood alcohol concentration of zero point 0.10.
Yeah.
It's that huge. And I don't know about you, but for me, if I don't get a good night's rest, I'm a wreck. I
Hmm.
can't concentrate. My brain is fuzzy. My face feels heavy. I'm
Hmm.
unmotivated to work out or do anything else. Really, all I can think about is when can I take a nap? It's totally distracting from excelling at anything else. And it also invites cravings for me. And studies show us that the brain is looking for energy when we're tired. And I'm not talking about carrot sticks, it is wanting sugary snacks, the most highly processed food the brain is familiar with. It is sending signals, get it fast. I don't care what you have to do. I'm
That's right.
sleepy, I'm tired. I've got to get it. When I used to work in the hospital in MICU, I live in Kansas, Tornado Alley, some people call it. And back in the 90s, there was a major tornado in our area. And I worked in the medical intensive care, and it came through about 9 in the evening. And the hospital started calling every single hospital worker in we were having to triage people. I mean, they were just coming in and people were in gurneys parked in the hallways and we didn't have identification on them. But so we worked all night long. I started a work day at 9 in the evening and had to work all night long. And I remember them just bringing in, I mean, pizzas and junk food and everything,
Hmm.
just to feed the nurses, just to keep them going, to keep the buzz on. And we ate our way through that traumatic evening. But yes, that's what the brain is calling for, which is ironically a stimulant and the opposite thing that we need whenever we need to go to
Exactly.
sleep. What about you if you
Exactly.
don't get enough sleep?
Well, and it's interesting. I'm in healthcare too, and that I know my organization. will, especially during COVID, right? Their community was, the communities local to the hospitals that we own were bringing and sending and buying and shipping food and making food and dropping it off at the hospitals. And all of it was processed food or junk food or some version. And, I just kept thinking, you're impairing the effectiveness of our team members. You're not enabling it. Just,
Oh, I know.
food is not love in that way.
I know.
And how impaired was your team that night, right? And you didn't know back then, right? You didn't know that food was actually holding you back from doing your best work.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Um,
agree.
yeah. And for me, if I am eating processed food and not sleeping, which they kind of go hand in hand, but it is
Right.
a disaster. And in general, sleep for me, is paramount now. But I spent many years not believing in the data on the importance of sleep. And I really paid the price. Sleep next to food prep. It has to be next to food prep for me as foundational component of recovery. That's why we're talking about it today, guys. It's really
Right.
critical. I
I
cannot function at the levels I need and want to function at without adequate sleep. And by the way, it changes, right? My food has changed as I've aged. My food needs have changed as I've aged. My sleep needs have changed as I've aged as well.
Interesting. No, I agree completely. And I agree with you too. If I had to do priorities with recovery, food prep would be one, and sleep would be a very close second because I literally can't do anything unless I'm well rested. My face feels heavy and I just am a zombie. And
Yeah.
I don't want to function that way. It's too important to me now. When I was young, I would think, oh, let's stay up till 3 in the morning watching movies with your boyfriend. I know I have to be to work at 8 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning at a retail job when, you're 18, 19 years old, but it didn't matter then. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yep.
But now I'm much smarter than that. So,
Yes.
and I don't have that boyfriend anymore. That boyfriend's gone. He's history. So, do you need an alarm to wake up? Do you wake up to an alarm?
For years, I do. And I did not understand that needing an alarm was probably a sign. It was a sort of like canary in the coal mine that there was not adequate sleep happening for me. And I mean, I wasn't the kind that would set alarms at different places in my room and have to get up and go hit them. But I'm a snoozer. I'm a snoozer. Like the minute that alarm goes off, I'm cursing and hitting the snooze. I mean, it's the first word out of my mouth for many years is a profanity, really, because
That's how you start your day.
that's how I start my day. And how sad is that, right? Like I realized like that's the kind of energy I'm putting out into the world
Mhm.
is profanity the minute that my alarm goes off. That should tell me that I'm not getting enough sleep. And what I started to do was I revamped my sleep routine by going to bed earlier and just, telling my husband, hey, this is non-negotiable for me. I've got to go to bed. You do you. We have some nights that we have a routine when we go to bed together, and other nights that he stays up and does his thing and I go to bed. And I'll tell you that extra time in bed, and I was able to revamp my workout routine in the morning, which gave me a little extra sleep as well. It was a game changer. And I started waking up before my alarm went off. So the
Yeah.
curse stopped.
Minimize the cursing there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I go to bed much earlier than my husband, but as the time has passed, I've seen him to start coming to bed a little bit earlier too, and then he's getting up earlier with me too. But I always set an alarm for 5, but oftentimes I'm starting to rouse around
Mhm,
4:30 or
mhm.
so, which gives me a little bit of time to kind of lay there and think through my day before I actually get up. But especially if I know I have to be up and on time, I will naturally get up. If I know I can sleep in, I won't set an alarm, but I still will be up in the 5 o'clock hour
Okay.
somewhere. But I stick to my going to bed. That's one thing that they talk about a lot when it comes to protecting your sleep is no matter what day of the week it is, stick to your same bedtime.
Yeah.
Don't, vary that around. Just
Yeah.
sticking to your same bedtime is very helpful with that.
Mhm.
Do you have a golden number on your sleep?
Yes. The older I get, the more I need, which is interesting, right? Because When I was in my teens, of course, you sleep a lot as a teenager. That's pretty common. And as a kid, you need usually 8, 9 hours. And then there was a period in my late teens, 20s, 30s, where I would go 5, 6 hours, not think twice about it, maybe 7 hours. But of course, I was, you know, snoozing and cursing and the whole thing. And I just thought it was denial, right? I didn't think I needed that much sleep. And then when I hit my mid to late 40s, all of a sudden I'm like, I
Mhm.
can't, 7 hours doesn't cut it anymore. Like I 7 hours is a bare minimum, and maybe a couple times a week. It really needs to be closer to 8 consistently. And then
Mhm.
there are some days that I'll get 9 hours and I feel
Mhm.
amazing. And I'm married to somebody, my husband, he does not, he's like anything more than 6.5 hours, I'm tired all day. And so he's
Oh,
wired like that, and
wow.
I'm wired where I need that 8, 9 hours now.
He can get by on 6.5.
That's what he says. That's what he says.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, 8.5 is lovely. Every once in a while, 9, if it's just on a day where I'm not
Yeah.
scheduled, with an early morning. And if there's a few days in there that I can squeak by if it's a 7-hour night or a 6-hour night if we're traveling or something strange is happening, but consistently, I really 8.5 is really the sweet spot for me. So, in order for that to happen, it doesn't just happen. We have to make it happen. So what are the things that we do to get better sleep? Some of the scientists would tell us to start winding down activities a couple hours before bed, put away technology,
Mhm.
dark sleeping space, get rid of the alarm clock if you don't have to wake up to it. In other words, your body will naturally wake up when it should.
Mhm.
Establish a routine, brushing your teeth, reading a book, those types of things that help your body know, okay, we're getting ready for bedtime, and talk to your doctor, of course, if you are having sleep trouble. And
Mhm.
maybe snoring is an issue, or insomnia, or restless leg, or sleep apnea, or you have a spouse who's snoring. That's a problem too. I don't know
Oh,
who to
yeah.
talk to about that, the doctor or who, but that's a real issue in marriages. For me,
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be something would have to change. I would have to get my own room or do something like that. I just cannot be disturbed when I sleep. It's that critical for me functioning at a high level the next day.
Mhm.
But for us, we use blackout curtains and a fan, white noise. And you know what? All my kids use fans,
Mhm.
and now all my kids use fans. So they
Mhm.
all have these white noise machine. And I try to start reading about a half an hour before lights are out. I've really been doing that in the past year. It's a new habit I really love. What about you?
Mhm. Yeah, same. For me, I have over the years incorporated different things. It was the white noise machine. I lived in Chicago for years, and when you're living in that kind of environment, urban environment, it was really critical to have a white noise machine because there was a lot of street noise and a lot of vehicle
Mhm.
noise. So that's when I started the traditional white noise machine, like the ones you see in the doctor's offices, the little round circles that make the
Yeah.
whooshing noise, work great. And then over time, apps were developed and I started doing the white noise apps. I'd never really used the fan per se because I've always had the apps. And now I'm getting really into like the binaural music and some of the sleep music that does a lot of the
Mm.
relaxation beats and relaxation tones
Mhm.
underneath the sounds.
Mhm.
So I really enjoy that. I've fallen asleep to affirmation tracks and other things
Oh,
too.
wow.
I really like experimenting, but for sure the blackout curtains came into my life. And then, it's in the last couple of years, and my husband is hilarious because he calls our bedroom the crypt. And he said it's like, you can't see your hand in front of your face in our room at night. And I said, I know, that's exactly the way it needs to be. I cover all the little lights on things with black tape,
Uh-huh.
with electrical tape. If it's got a little light on it, no joke, like a light switch with a little LED light on
Uh-huh.
it, or a TV with a
It's
little
gotta
red
go.
LED, gotta go. It's covered with a piece of black tape, and that's why it's called the crypt. And you know what? Guess who's sleeping really heavy? Both of us, very
Yeah.
well.
Uh-huh.
Our music, our temperature is cool, our blackout curtains. And the only thing that wakes us up in the morning because his circadian rhythm sees the light coming over the curtains is our little dog. And he'll kind of get us up, because he wants to come out of his crate. And by the way, we don't let our dogs sleep on the bed with us. We just it's not even a cleanliness thing as much as it is a we want to get a good sleep and we want him to
Mhm.
get good sleep. And it's just, I don't indulge sleeping with dogs or children. And, once in a while we get it, right? You have a sick kid, but overall it's not conducive to sleep for the child or for the parent. And for me, I do like the nighttime wind down routine. That's critical for me to get sleep. But snoring, I need to talk about snoring, Paige, because anybody who knows my story knows that when I lost a whole bunch of weight, it was lots of things changed in my life. And unfortunately, there was also a divorce for me in my life that happened. And my first husband was a just a snorer. He was a very big snorer.
Mm.
I knew it going in and didn't really think much of it. I'd grown up with a mom who snored, so whenever we had to share a room, it was a whole thing where I couldn't sleep. So I didn't understand how critical that was for me to not be around. And my husband and I, at the time, we ended up starting sleeping in separate rooms. And it absolutely contributed. That whole process contributed to the end of the marriage for sure. We were
Wow.
not, there was bonding time that wasn't spent in the same room. And we over many years became more like roommates than anything else. And I believe that the snoring contributed. So for those of you who are struggling with a partner who snores, talk to a doctor, talk to a counselor about your options, that you can get your sleep in some way, shape, or form. There's lots of ways to manipulate the nasal passages or the throat or the sleeping position to minimize snoring. There's also, of course, sleep apnea machines and other sleep studies. But by the way, when the food is clean and all of those body systems start to balance,
Hmm.
the sleep apnea and the snoring tend to go away. And I also have a confession that when I was dating right after divorce, I was single for about 6 years and I dated. And if it was a couple guys that, it got kind of serious with, and I knew what their sleep patterns were. And if they snored, they were out. It was a deal killer.
Red flag.
Red flag.
No, that is, I mean, you spend a third of your life in bed and you don't want to do it fighting. It's hard enough to get good sleep, but adding that on is just an extra component.
Yeah. Thanks for
So,
indulging me. A little long there.
no, no, those are interesting stories. I love to hear those stories. And so, that really leads into what gets in the way of getting to bed on time. And by the way, we're here in the circle of trust, right? So I can
Yes,
say anything
of course.
just between you and me. What gets in my way? The Real Housewives. If I turn on the TV in the evening and I get caught up in, "Ooh, what's she gonna say back to that one?" And, "Ooh, what how's she gonna handle her sister?" She knows what her sister did. I mean, I get sucked in, and before you know it, 2 hours have gone by because 'cause I've gotta watch the after show to see what Andy says about it too. I mean, and if I go to bed early, I'm gonna not know which outfit she picked for that, special black tie event. So, real important stuff, but it's just so easy to get sucked into reality TV. For me, that gets in the way, and I'm always trying to do one last thing, one last chore. So I try now to wash my face, brush my teeth, do my kitchen duties before I
Oh
sit
yeah,
down. I've got it. Otherwise, once I sit down, it's over, man.
me too.
It's over. What gets in the way of you getting to bed on time?
Um, I did not let myself get started with reality television, right? For that reason, I knew I'd get sucked in easily. I watched it years ago and it was too easy to get sucked in. So
Mhm.
I try to stay away from TV at night in general. My husband he likes to unwind with TV at night. So for him, he'll sit there and watch, and sometimes he'll want me to watch with, and many times I'll just say, I love you, but I gotta go to bed. Or I need
Mhm.
some time. I do some reparenting and some affirmation and meditation work at night. And for me, it's really important to my recovery. And we'll talk more about reparenting in the future, guys, but the the recovery commitments I have probably are the things that maybe get in the way of my bedtime because they're so
Mhm.
critical to the way I sleep. I just feel and sleep better when I do these routines. Sometimes it'll be last minute housework, things that I'll notice that need to get done before I want to go to bed. But if I sit down before I get my stuff done, I'm toast. I'm
Mhm.
toast.
Yeah. I know, and you know what? I think it's so smart to talk about, well, for me, I'm very type A, type triple A. I know I'm gonna sleep better if the kitchen
Yeah,
is clean before I go to bed, because the
me
last
too.
thing I wanna do is wake up first thing and face that,
That's right.
starting my day with disorganization. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So, do you ever eat or work in bed?
No, absolutely not. Those are
I
2
will.
boundaries I keep.
Mhm. And I try to not eat after dinner
Mhm,
typically. So, and I don't go to bed much before it's time to go to sleep or read.
mhm.
So, no, that's not a habit I do at all. And
Yeah,
we've talked a little bit about caffeine too as something that gets in the way of getting to sleep on time. Are you a coffee drinker or not just coffee, but there's so
yeah.
many energy drinks and
Oh,
things like that. So
yes.
working out and drinking caffeine, I know are things that can be barriers.
Mhm.
Where do you stand on those things?
For before COVID, for many years, and I was in my gym routine in the morning, I would have caffeine right before my workout. I would take it on, drink it on the way in or take a caffeine pill on the way into my workout. And when COVID hit, I remember thinking, well, I'm not going to the gym, right? I'm working out at home and
Mhm.
it's the timing's all different. I stopped taking the caffeine and I noticed that I had major withdrawal. And I mean, body aches and all kinds of, I mean, it was a week solid of just aching while my liver
Wow.
detoxified from the caffeine. And I remember thinking, I don't want this in my system anymore. So now, if I drink coffee, we're talking, I can count on one hand how many times a year that I drink coffee. And it's usually affiliated with road trip where it's keeping me awake to keep me safe. If we're driving and I need to stay awake so that my husband can sleep, I'll drive and I'll drink a small cup of black coffee. And the reason I do that is because anything else that caffeine is in typically has artificial sweeteners or chemicals that I can't
Right?
pronounce. I don't want to deal with it.
Mhm. Yeah, caffeine, if
Mm.
you're not used to it, it can be crazy on the system. I'm sorry to bring up my mountain climbing again, but, my last year, it usually takes us 8 hours. On the 7th hour, I did great the first 7 hours, and I was sinking that last hour, and she's like, here's some coffee beans, some chocolate covered coffee beans." And at that point, I had an hour left to go. Altitude was setting in, fatigue is setting in. I'm like, okay, seems like a good idea. That would have been probably about 1 in the afternoon. And I just took a fistful. Oh, and like I said, I don't take any caffeine. I was up till midnight or 1 in the morning. I could not get to sleep. I did not sleep very well at all. So it's that powerful of a
Mhm.
reaction if you're not used to that. It becomes a real dependence for people. Do you have any tricks that you use for falling asleep at night?
Yeah, we talked a lot about the crypt that I set up in our room. I also make sure that my metals are good. Magnesium helps me sleep. Magnesium, be eating the way I do as a whole food plant-based eater, I like to have magnesium levels at a certain point, and if I don't have them, I get some symptoms, and one of those symptoms is hard to fall asleep. I also have a nighttime routine that I talked about, some of that recovery work and the reparenting work that I do. It relaxes me. I have guided meditation that kind of walks me through the head to toe relaxation. I love doing that if needed.
Mhm.
Some nights I don't need it at all. Some nights I do.
Mhm.
And it really, if I do that audio file, it'll blend right into my 8 hour sleep music, right? Which is,
Oh.
yeah, so I'll just have a playlist that I create, and then it just goes right into the next in case I do fall asleep, and many times I do.
Mhm. I love that magnesium. I used to take mag-glycinate from a compound pharmacist here, and it worked great with helping me sleep when I was starting to go through menopause and having those sleep
Yes.
problems. But I sometimes can use, I don't know if you've heard about this light meditation where you're just resting and you picture kind of light beams coming out from around your head, neck, and shoulders, and you're in the complete dark, but just picture these beams coming out. And that's very relaxing. And I love what you said about the head to toe relaxation. Like Now my head is relaxed. Now my eyes are relaxed. Now my nose is relaxed, and just go through the body parts, telling each body part it's relaxed from head to toe. And I think that's very effective. And you just learn through trial and error what are the things that works, what are the things that is most effective. What about temperature? Does that affect you in your room?
Yes, if it were up to me, well, I live in South Texas, Southeast Texas. So for me, it's hot most of the year. And so temperature is a big deal. And if I could keep it in the low 60s, low to mid 60s in the room all the time, I would. But since that would mean the air conditioning would need to run about 7/8 of the year, we don't do that. So I have a ceiling fan that helps regulate, but I'll tell you,
Mm,
like, I'm in my late 40s now, and I shudder to say that, but it's true. And I know I'm heading into the perimenopause, menopause phase. And so I don't get night sweats in general from the food. I'm very grateful for that. But
mhm.
the minute that we transitioned to a foam mattress, and I sweat like it's my job
It
every
is the
night, like
devil.
clockwork.
That
I
foam
can't live with
mattress
foam
is the
mattresses,
devil.
and
Mhm.
they're everywhere now. You know how hard it is to find a regular inner spring mattress? Like, there's so much foam that they use because I'm sure it's a very comfortable thing. It's very popular. It's very cost effective. I get it, but it's not good for me from a heat perspective.
Oh, yeah. We went out and bought, I mean, just a foam itself, the foam topper that became all the rage, and we got rid of that sucker. I mean, that was a nightmare for a
Mhm.
lady going through menopause. Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
was just a temperature nightmare. So, yes, we keep it cool in there at night. And the fan not only is effective for white noise for us, but it also helps keep the cool air circulating. So that
Yes.
helps. So the night sweats are a real pain, and I have to tightly control my blanket situation. I have a heavier blanket on the bottom half, and I have a lighter covering on my top half, because if I get too warm up here, that's what really seems to
Mm,
activate those night sweats. So I have a bottom half
that's
blanket and a top half. And yeah, that just helps me because my feet are always cold, but then I just get hot up around my chest. So,
that makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. That's great awareness.
Oh,
Thank you
well,
for sharing that.
thank you very much. Yeah,
Great
hopefully that
awareness.
will help all the women out there listening. They'll go, "Oh, 2 blankets, a heavier and a lighter."
It's gonna help me, Paige. It's gonna help me tonight. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
You
starting
never
right
know.
now.
Yep, exactly, exactly. The other thing that I did with the foam mattress was, because I didn't want to invest in a new mattress, I bought a mattress chilling pad, and they're sometimes some of these are as pricey as mattresses, so you have to shop. But
Mm.
um, we ended up doing like a chili pad, and you can regulate it for heat or cold.
Oh,
And it does help a lot with regulating body temperature on a foam mattress. But I just keep thinking, if I didn't have a foam mattress, I wouldn't need this silly contraption. So
I've never even heard of a
yeah, it's basically
chili
just
pad.
runs water. The one I have is by 8 Sleep, and it runs water through coils on a mattress pad that wraps around the mattress. So and there's no electrostatic, frequencies coming through, but it's just runs the water through, and it cools or heats the water as needed.
Hmm.
And you can set it for different temperatures as your sleep cycle progresses through the night. But it's so interesting. I just noticed up here at my other home, we have a mattress that's traditional inner spring mattress, and I get up way less. I sleep great. I don't have any kind of temperature issues. It's such a difference, the
Wow.
mattress.
I'm gonna have to check into that. That's very
Mhm,
interesting.
mhm.
Are you a napper?
Yes, non-negotiable. Every day, just about 5 days a week, I'll nap. I will schedule some time if I can. And when I can't, I'm not very understanding about that. How about you?
Oh, I totally, it's part of my schedule. I mean, when I'm working my day and organizing my day, I decide where in there that I'm going to get at least 20 minutes in. There may be days I can get more, but I call it getting ready for second shift. I have got to get 20 minutes of downtime. I may not always fall asleep, but I need to close my eyes and put myself in timeout and just I need a minute. And if I don't get that protected 20 minutes, it's not good for me. And
Mm-mm.
I go back into that. It's my face is painful, everything's heavy. I'm just slugging through, and I don't like feeling like that. So, um, even though I go to bed early and get up early, I am still a new person after I get that 20-minute nap. I'm renewed. I'm
Yes,
ready to take on whatever is in front of me.
for sure, for sure.
We
We talked about partners snoring, and I told my divorce story, and dating after divorce, and that I think that's really important just to stress for those of you who do have that situation. Again, we said it a few minutes ago. Get Use your resources. There are communities, there are ways to get around it where you can keep your connection with your partner, and they can work on resources or use resources that help them position themselves in a way that snoring is minimalized. You have resources you can use and tools and contraptions that you can use from a hearing perspective. From a partnership perspective, it's very critical to have that connection in the same bed. And so but it's also very critical to get your sleep.
Yeah.
So it's balance.
Yeah, so you can either try those options or you can get an elbow to the ribs.
That
Those
also works. Also works.
I'm very lucky my husband is not a big snorer, and I do know if we've had a heavy meal or something like that, I think that seems to
Yes,
affect his
contribute.
snoring a little bit more, but I'm such a light sleeper. I can't do it. I just cannot do it. Some people sleep in a hammock. I have a friend who slept in a hammock. Have you ever heard of that? Do you think that's a good idea?
No, I think that if it's wonderful if it works for your friend, that's great. For me, I am not a character on Gilligan's Island, so I am going to choose to sleep on a mattress instead of in a
Yeah.
hammock.
Yeah. So the message is whatever floats your boat, whatever
Yep.
you get the best quality sleep. If you want to sleep upside down, if you want to
Yeah.
sleep standing on your head, if you want to do cartwheels all
Exactly.
night,
Yeah.
nice. But yeah,
Exactly.
for me, I think I just do better with the traditional. Investing in a good quality mattress is probably the ticket for me.
Stretching out. Stretching out's the way to go. I like to stretch out.
Yeah.
A hammock would make me feel too confined.
Do you have a king size bed or do you have a regular or queen? What do you believe in?
When I have an aunt and uncle who have a really long, beautiful marriage, and one of the things they've always said is the secret to their marriage success is the queen size bed. And then they eventually upgraded to a king, but after many many years. And so when my husband and I got married, I said, oh, we're going to keep my queen bed, it's a really comfortable mattress. So we ended up sleeping in a queen bed, and everyone made fun of us. Oh, look at your little bed. And I'm like, why does anyone care? But it worked. And then it got to the point where I wanted to stretch out more. And he didn't really have a problem, except the poor man only had like a quarter of the bed. So we changed out the really comfy queen for that horrible foam king. And I love the extra room, but I don't love the comfort of that mattress. So
Mhm.
trade-offs, but king, yeah, king and a good mattress would be my ideal.
Yeah, agree. I had never slept in a king size bed before I got married to my husband, and that's what he had, so that's what we did, and it's like, wow, there is a lot of room in here. And now I don't know how I would ever go back to
I-
a smaller
no,
one.
yeah.
So just curious about that. If you want to leave a comment in our comment section on that and drop one word, regular, queen, king. It would be
I
fun to take a poll.
when my husband and I first got married, our first six months, we were traveling and staying with family, and they put us in a room with two twin beds, and I'm like, are we going to do like the Lucy and Ricky and push them together, or what are we going to do? And we just decided to sleep in the same twin bed. So I've slept in a twin bed with my husband, and we both slept really well. And I'll tell you, I would never, you know, do that, but we were just so, we're newlyweds, and that's what we did. We slept in the twin bed. So I've done everything from a twin to a king. I much
Wow.
prefer a king.
Yeah. Oh, do you have anything else you want to say before we move on to some listener questions?
No, I just, again, cannot underestimate the power of sleep and how
Agree.
critical it is to recovery, and also critical it is to food craving control and food choice in general.
Yeah, that really gets you really segued right into our first listener question, which says they ask, I feel like I do better with my food when I'm sleeping well. Is that my imagination? So, do you want to finish taking this or do you want me to?
No, I want to hear what you have to say here.
Yeah, so one thing we touched on a little bit earlier is when the brain is lacking energy, it needs to find it somewhere. And I'm going to use a pun and say the lowest hanging fruit for the brain's need for energy is food. And the brain is well aware that the high sugary sweets is where it can get the biggest bang for its buck.
Mhm.
And so that's what it's going to crave. I'm telling you, it's not craving for carrot sticks, especially when you're groggy. You're wanting a hit.
Right.
Basically, you're wanting to get high. You're wanting to light up the brain, and that's
It.
exactly the type of food that it goes for. So it's not your imagination at all. So almost food prep and sleep almost go hand in hand instead of
Mhm.
one above the other in helping to stay clean in recovery. You want to add
Agreed.
anything to that?
Nope. So you said it well.
So the other listener question is, I cleaned out my closet and noticed how much better I felt after decluttering, almost like it helped my recovery. Am I imagining that? You want to take this or?
Yeah, no, you're not imagining it, at least in my experience. For me, when I am sleeping or living in a decluttered environment, a clean environment, and I know I'm not talking about white glove clean. I'm just talking about things are picked up and I can breathe and I can relax without seeing something to clean or something to put away or pick up.
Mhm.
It helps my brain feel more organized, which helps me stay calm in my recovery. And
Yeah.
that is, it's not my imagination. It's something that it's scientifically backed. There are some people who grew up in homes that were really cluttered or disorganized, so for them they don't notice it as much,
Mhm.
and it doesn't bother them as much. But for me, growing up in the home that I did, it was part of the routine of the home to keep picking things up and cleaning things, on a regular basis. So I just learned it, and that's how I feel organized and safe.
Yeah. I again I'm wound very tight. I'm sure I've got ADD. And so having a calm environment just invites peace to me internally. I can't relax if one thing's out of place. It bugs me. I don't even like it when the chairs aren't squared up to the table. So I just need super controlled, super clean, super picked up. I don't want a distraction. I don't want anything in the room bugging me. And
Mhm.
so it helps for me to stay calm and control with everything in an orderly fashion. I function much better. A mess invites chaos internally for me. So, yeah. And it affects my sleep too. If I can go to bed at night knowing everything's in order and I'm going to wake up to a pristine environment, really calms my brain a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, and that's, again, a lot of it is, for me, is it's a function of growing up in that kind of home. It's also a function in just observing how I feel when things around me are put away and sort of organized. I'm very visual, so it brings me a lot of joy to look around and see things in their place. And, I married to someone who grew up where that wasn't as much of a priority. And while he has military background, so he's very neat and orderly, he doesn't get bothered by environments that aren't.
Mm,
So he prefers to keep his things sort of neat and orderly, but doesn't get bothered by environments that aren't. I'm both. I'm neat and orderly in my stuff, and my environment needs to be picked up and sort of organized, because it's just a better experience.
yeah. Before you go on vacation, do you clean the house and do the laundry so when you walk back in, everything is you're just
Yes.
walking back into
And you know what I
total
do? I
what?
tell myself as I'm doing it, because of course it's stressful,
Mhm.
right? And going back and forth between the two homes, it's stressful. But a week and a half ago, I was food prepping and cleaning up my things and doing some laundry. And it was a little bit extra, extra time that weekend. And I kept telling myself, future Jamie is going to thank me. Future
Yeah.
Jamie is going to thank me. And that's what I just remind myself, future Jamie is gonna really love this. And
Yeah.
like I leave to go back home to Texas on Friday. I will be cleaning the house here on Thursday night. I will be doing the last load of laundry on Thursday night. I will be swapping out, the old towels for the new towels, all that stuff. So when I come back here with my husband in June, we don't have to do that when we walk in the door.
Yeah. Yeah. What a gift. What a
What a gift.
gift to yourself, to your recovery,
Mhm.
to anybody else that needs to be around you. It just, yeah, very smart to have that level of organization. It just
Mhm.
invites happy. So
Yeah.
we do what we do for how we feel after. So prime
Yes.
example
Agreed.
of keeping the towels clean.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sister. Anything else you want to any parting words before we head
Yeah.
out?
I just, again, guys, we talk about sleep because it is so critical. Sleep for us has been a journey, right? A journey of discovery in recovery, discovering what sleep does for us and how it aids in our recovery. For me and what Paige shared, if we think sleep doesn't affect our food, we're kidding ourselves.
Right.
It has an immediate and immense effect on our food.
Hmm.
And so it's really important to acknowledge that. So yeah, that's why we're here talking about it today on Real
Yeah.
Food Recovery. Thank you
Yep.
guys so much for listening.
We're just so glad you're here. Stay tuned for our next episode. Episode 13 is going to be on spirituality. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the points we make. And don't panic. This is not about religion. We're going to find out what spirituality really is. And we're going to have an interesting discussion on that. So we will see you next time as well. Bye, guys. See you
Bye
later.
all. See you soon.